Welcome to the landmark building that houses Salmagundi Club. It's an historic brownstone in Lower Fifth Avenue. It's a Hawley mansion, the last of its kind in the city. Come on in. We're featuring today in our upper gallery the exhibition of the Coast Guard Art Program Collection 2020. So follow me through. This is our gorgeous entryway. Classic architecture, paintings from the curator's collection. Beautiful ceilings. Take a look up there, Chris. Kristopher Battles, our photographer.
Sorry, it's not my day job.
And wow, our gorgeous upper gallery. It was renovated a few years back to no small expense, may I say. And it's a showcase for not only the club's art, the Coast Guard's art, and it is a prized place for many other art organizations to showcase their members' art as well. We're very proud of this, and it's a great venue for us. I sit on the board of directors here, so it's been quite an experience to see all this evolve over time. As you'll see later on as we pull this talk together, this is the collection this year. There's 31 paintings by 22 artists. It's juried for selection earlier in the year, around February. Then there is always a George Gray Award given for Best of Show. That was juried July 2nd by our club president, Elizabeth Spencer, Captain Jason Tama of Coast Guard Sector New York, and Peter Trippi, who is the editor-in-chief of Fine Art Connoisseur magazine. So it's quite a prestigious award. It's very well thought out, and the program is very well thought of by Coast Guard senior leadership, Coast Guard Sector New York. We have a lot of fans around. The Navy League of the New York Council always is a big supporter and gives us reception support. So enjoy the show. Welcome to Salmagundi Club. I'm Karen Loew, and I chair the Coast Guard Art Program. We are in the premier upper gallery of the club, and this is where Coast Guard Collection 2020 is on view, its inaugural exhibition. We've been the proud sponsor of COGAP since its inception in 1981. So this would have been a very grand event on July 2nd when we would have had a big reception here. Coast Guard senior leadership comes to thank the artists and present each artist with a very impressive public service commendation signed by the Commandant. We had Admiral Carl Schultz here in 2019. It was definitely a bucket list item for me to have him come and be a part of our program here. So as a capacity crowd was not possible this year, everyone got those mailed. This is a very nice way that the Coast Guard celebrates what we do and shows their appreciation to each and every artist. We also have catalogs of the show. It's very well received and presented. I did 3 works for Collection 2020 this year based on a deployment I had to the Maritime Law Enforcement Academy in Charleston, South Carolina. I gave myself a very aggressive assignment, self-imposed, of doing 3 paintings that I felt would tell the story of what I saw and experienced there. I wanted it all in one collection. And perhaps you as artists understand what my thinking was on this, that I'm always learning, my skills change and hopefully improve. My palette may change, my brushstroke may change. So to tell this story at one point in time, I wanted it to be the same me doing that. So I was down there in December 2019, just before the world turned upside down, which was very fortunate. It was a very unique time because what they were doing was cross-border training. Part of what the Maritime Law Enforcement Academy does is works with Canada. We have an integrated cross-border maritime law enforcement operation that they train for. And so this work that they were doing explains how they treat a situation in common waters. We have this common watery border called the St. Lawrence River. It's not just Niagara Falls between the two of us. So if they're out, for instance, on patrol and they board another vessel, depending which side of the waters they're on, whose law they're going to use. So that's what this particular exercise is about that I was observing. So the first painting I did was this one over here, cross border. And what you have is a gentleman here on the left. He is with the Ontario Police Division. And on the right we have the Coast Guard. So in the background, on the grounds around the buildings of the Maritime Law Academy are boat training platforms. And you go up a flight of steps, there's a deck, and you can literally step onto a real vessel. They have small craft, small pleasure boats, go-fasts, sailboats. There's even a fishing trawler there. So they have real assets they could actually step onto, not just to interview the crew, but to actually be able to search a vessel in its reality. So we have here is the Canadian is radioing ahead to the captain or the crew of the ship about a boarding they're going to do. Now what's different about the Canadians and the US is the Canadians, as it's happening, take notes. So you'll notice that there's a notepad in his hands. And the Coast Guard's doing the same. They need to know this so that, again, which side of the water's they on. In the background, you'll see the roof of that platform. They all have a covering, they're open on all sides, but like I said, there's a full-size craft up there waiting for them to board. All right, so they've contacted the ship. It may be about just checking to see if they have enough life preservers. Do they have illegal passengers? Perhaps like in this one, over here, we can go to this one. This is titled Arrested, because there's also the Canadian Controlled Substance and Drug Act that they enforce. So this would have been a mock boarding, drugs been found, they have a mock arrest. Now what you notice in this one also, there's a figure in the back standing kind of off to himself in a red jacket. He's the instructor. They're all there learning something. They've been in classrooms. Now this is what you probably call the practical aspect of it. And then I think within a day or two of what my observations, they went to have a sit-down exam about this. So they're very serious about everybody getting the rules right. And again, you'll notice the guy on the left has a notepad. So they're taking notes, they're going through their actions, and this is a Canadian vessel, in theory, on Canadian waters. So that was what we were depicting here. Also what they do at the Maritime Academy is what I call mat work. And this one was an indoors in a mat room where they are training. In this case, they all come from different units, maybe one person from a unit, trained in techniques, and then they go back to their units and teach others what they learned. So you have a guy, again in the back, in red. Red seems to be the instructor's color. So he's standing back there watching, and you have two in action. They're engaged in protection of self and weapon, is what this exercise is about. And the person in the foreground on the left, she's, in this case, quote, the instructor or the trainer. And they switch off roles as it goes along. So those are the three aspects of what you're seeing in that particular piece. Very fascinating experience to be here and to watch what they were doing. The use for these pieces beyond just the Coast Guard's collection will undoubtedly be reproductions done for the Visitor Center at the Maritime Law Enforcement Academy to help explain what they do. I was really welcomed by Captain Joseph Solomon there, BMC Loew. They gave me quite a great opportunity to see what was going on, to experience the training, to see firsthand what goes into it all. It was quite fascinating. Souvenirs, always fun to go and get coins, challenge coins of the academy and the different types of instructions that they do there. I hope that this gives you a great overview of what a COGAP piece is like. This was my deployment. There are other pieces in this room that Chris will probably take the camera around to see. You need to understand too, something is a little different about COGAP than perhaps the Marines. Yes, I had a deployment. Yes, it's all done from all my own research on site. But we are a very broad collection with a with a military that has 11 missions. We can't be where all the action is all the time. So we do have permission and are encouraged to use public affairs photos by Coast Guard, not by the wire service, not by the New York Times. It's got to be Coast Guard images themselves that we are allowed to use. So many of the things you'll see in the room as Chris pans around are from various aspects of the Coast Guard's work. There's also a couple more combat artists in this room, I'm proud to say, that have done deployments on their own and come up with some really quite exciting pieces for COGAP Collection 2020. Hope this gives you a great sense of what we do. It is a volunteer organization. Every artist donates their time, talent, and a painting. And that's how we get it done. Thank you.
We're going to open it up now to live question and answer for Karen. I know I've got a question. I asked a little bit in the chat, but I'd like to ask one question. Karen, is there any special training that you have to do, since it is a very challenging environment sometimes to go out on these Coast Guard vessels or training events? Do they make you do any training?
I think that the sense of observation is key, because you really want to find that takeaway moment that explains what is going on, because there's so much activity. What narrows down to the essence, like for instance, this, I wanted to pick out 3 things that sort of told the story there. And then I took a lot of photographs, because it's a lot of things. They're happening in real time. They're not posing for me. They're going about what they do. I'm not a courtroom quick sketch artist. So I just documented like crazy. A lot of photos, went through and carefully edited. Again, I think it takes time and thought to figure out what's going to make the best representation of what I've seen. And that's a challenge in itself. I think just, editing.
So another question I have, the Salmagundi Club is such a wonderful venue,
Yeah.
and you're on the board for the Salmagundi Club.
Yeah.
How did that relationship begin?
Well, again, actually, George Gray was one of the a combat artist in Vietnam. He did a lot of work for NACOW, which was a Navy art program. They disbanded it, or suspended it for a while, I think in like late 70s, early 80s. So then he decided, with a gentleman named Jim Ward, who was with Community Relations in Coast Guard headquarters, to start a Coast Guard art program. And since he was a member of Salmagundi Club, it became the company the club that sponsored it. Like, for instance, as a citizen, you can't say, I'd like to send a painting off to the Coast Guard and just ship it off to them. There is a process, because it's military, it's government. So we sponsor it so that all the art is juried and comes through the Salmagundi Club. And we have, if we would have had a reception this year, it's typically called an acceptance ceremony. That's exactly what happens. The club president, on behalf of the artists, presents it to the senior leadership of the Coast Guard. Last year, we were thrilled to have the Commandant, and he accepts it on behalf of the Coast Guard. So it becomes their art, their collection. We give away the art, the copyright. It is true volunteer work. So it started back in 1981 with George Gray and Jim Ward creating the program, and it's been housed, sponsored by, heavily supported by the Salmagundi Club ever since. I joined the club in 1999, and on one of the events we had, social events, there was a presentation by our then vice chair, Tom Picard, and he talked about COGAP. I thought, gee, I think I'd like to join that. So just, I just went to an event like 2 months into my joining the club. It was middle of March, and signed up. I, quote, enlisted as volunteer artist for the program. And then when George retired, and then Tom took over more responsibilities on his job, I went from vice chair to chair of the program in like a blink of an eye. And that's it. I've been chair since I think 2001, yeah. So love it. I think it's the quintessential volunteerism.
I'd like to ask you, what kind of equipment do you take with you when you go to a vessel or training event?
Well, I actually did take a sketch pad with me and Prisma pencils, just in case I felt there was that great opportunity. But in addition, I have a Canon G10. I have a Nikon waterproof. Actually, it's a quote unquote considered a child's camera. That's only because it has big buttons. I don't care. And I had my cell phone. So I kind of shoot with everything because they all see things a little differently. And it's interesting to shoot them all. And of course, if anything fails, batteries run out, whatever, I'm totally backed up with everything I can possibly have with me.
Does anybody have a question for Karen?
I'd like to, since no one seems to, I'd like to conclude with a couple things. I think John Deckert's watching and perhaps Richard Johnson. I met them 2 years ago when we had this event live in Quantico, which was a real thrill. And by the way, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Kelly, for putting this together in this remarkable way today. And George, I'm sorry, Charlie Grow, it was great to see you too. But anyway, I met a number of people then, and John Deckert and Richard both joined into COGAP, and they contributed this year. I felt so bad that they couldn't come to see our grand receptions, because believe me, there's nothing like it in our club. I don't know if any other the branches that do military art do anything like we do. But maybe next year, I hope they contribute. I hope they'll come back. But we have a lovely catalog. It's not the best reproduction or even to show here, but you know, there's John Deckert's, one of them here. And then we have another of his here.
Nice.
Richard did, like, I think he did like 5 wonderful Prismacolor sketches. He went on location and did a couple more. Yeah, both Richard and John did their own personal deployments to contribute. As I said in my talk, you know, we can't all go deployed. So we would never be able to cover all 11 missions, but we do have a couple active duty Coast Guard members who are artists. And this gentleman, Jason Newman, takes his own research and contributes every year. Then this gentleman, Thomas Unger, though he uses somebody else's, he is a coastie, proud of his service. And he does this with coffee. You know, coffee, what you drink. So I guess he lets his coffee be of different degrees of espresso down the week, and he paints his coasties. So it's a great collection. I'm so proud of all the artists who contribute and want to do this to show what the Coast Guard does. One last comment, because I'm probably running out of time. When we first started this program that I got involved in, obviously 20 years ago, and I'd have friends come to the club to see the show. This was before we were part of Homeland Security. You got to realize the Coast Guard used to be Department of Transportation, Life Saving, many other alliterations. Now it's the Homeland Security. And I'd have friends say, oh, I didn't know the Coast Guard did that. Oh, I didn't know they did that. They'd look around this room and see more of the missions than what they thought. Oh, they're boat safety. Oh, they're buoy tending. Oh, they're life-saving service. And then they really realize this is such an educational tool. The public gets to know what our coasties do and what we're so proud of them. They do for all of us. That's my commercial.
Good deal. Well, thank you, Karen, very much for your presentation, as well as the nice answers to the questions. And so we'll continue on with our symposium. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.